You might be watching people piling into the stock markets and making money and think to yourself, I want to do that, but I owe money. Should I pay off that first or invest to try and beat the debt? Today, we're going to look at how to prioritize your finances and get ready for investing. And we have a little extra tip at the end for those who are particularly nervous of it.
I'm Marcus De Silva.
I'm Simon Longfellow.
And we're two city professionals with over 30 years of experience between us. And having realised that investing is really not that difficult, we're here to help you understand how it all works so that you can earn a better return and achieve financial freedom. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel and turn on notifications. We post new videos every Monday, and comment below if you've any questions and we'll respond.
So we all have debts, a credit card here, a student loan maybe, or even a mortgage if you're one of the lucky ones who haven't been priced out of the market by your parents. And let's face it, paying off debt is snooze-inducing, not a lot of fun. It's like a massive hangover after the party. And when you're watching your mates piling into investing into things like crypto, you might start to think that maybe a genius investing strategy can pull you out of those black holes and towards riches untold. Well, today we're going to tackle this question and also look at some of the other essential things you should do before taking a dive into the markets. You know, investing involves taking some risks to achieve returns, and what is tempting is to pile in before you've even prepared for those risks. This is how new investors get their fingers burnt and put off investing. And we don't want that, because learning this stuff, we believe, is life-changing in terms of creating financial freedom for yourself. And what's more, it's fun, it's exciting to see your money grow in a way you will never see when you save it. Let's get going.
Now, first thing we often get asked is whether you should invest if you still have credit card debt, or worse, if you should use a credit card to fund investing. No, do not do this, right? Credit cards have an APR. This stands for the annual percentage rate, and it is the percentage chunk of the amount that you've borrowed that they're going to ask from you each year in interest. This is the cost of your debt. Now, we have friends at Moneyfacts, a big data provider for financial products. And if you look down the list of credit card APRs, it's eye-watering. It's about 20% per year. Now, if we imagine that building wealth is like filling up a bath, then that APR, that rate of interest on your debts, is like a big hole in that bath. Any wealth being topped up is leaking out at a sizable rate. The bigger the APR, the bigger that hole. And of course, likewise, alongside savings, the investment returns are what you're using to fill up the bath. And a 20% return is actually very good in a year, so the likelihood of you being able to beat those APRs and fill up the bath faster than it drains it just isn't likely. So zero the credit card debts first. It should be the first thing that you do. And don't forget that if for some reason you need the money, you can always borrow on the credit card again. That's what they're there for.
Next, you might ask, okay, I get it, higher rate interest deals are a no-no before investing, but what about lower rate interest borrowing? Whether you pay these off is actually quite a bit less clear and will be down to quite a few factors. These are in effect much smaller holes in your bathtub and quite a bit easier to contain. The first thing is how risk averse you are and how much money and investing might worry you, because returns from investing are uncertain. They are absolutely not guaranteed. Diversified investments will generally go up over time. Over shorter periods, investments might experience some turmoil and fall into the red. This is perfectly normal, and lots of investments will do this. But even if your debts are cheaper, say a loan that you're repaying in installments at say 3%, it can feel stressful having a loan you're servicing, given you have investments running around in the stock market that may also be in the red. Others may not feel this way and might not mind keeping a loan and continuing to invest, especially if their salary easily covers both of these activities. But some people who are a bit more risk averse may want to put these debts to bed first before they start investing, and you know what, that's fine too. The other thing is to consider whether there are penalty charges for early repayments, as doing so just wouldn't make sense. A great example is a mortgage. You will get heavily penalised if you overpay more than is allowed, and waiting 25 years to repay a mortgage before you invest wouldn't make much sense either. Some overpayment might be a good idea, but don't forget that if the value of your house is going up, the percentage value of the debt against the price of the house is going down. Really, with this extra money, you have an opportunity to put it to work in the market. Let us know what you would do with these cheaper debts in the comments below.
Okay, now we're getting nearer to investing time. But first, building an emergency fund. It's really important for that lovely, delicious, dreamy sleep we all like to get at night. Who knows what life will throw at us? My mate Woody moved into a flat that wasn't particularly new, but they hadn't been building a sinking fund properly, and he got slapped with a £12,000 bill to replace the communal boiler, which was really quite painful. Your roof could start leaking, you could lose your job, you could decide that you want to join Jeff Bezos in space and therefore need the cool $28 million for a Blue Origin ticket, although I think probably you're more likely to be one of the 153,732 who signed a petition to keep him in space. So you need a cash buffer, and you need to be able to tide through these unexpected costs, because if you don't do this, then when the metaphorical excrement hits the fan, you might need to sell your investments to fund that particular emergency. And this is a problem, because if they're in the red, you will crystallize your losses. That just means you'll make them real. So as a rule of thumb, build a pot worth about 3 to 6 months of living costs. So think, your mortgage, your bills, food, anything else you couldn't possibly live without. Netflix for me, Scotch eggs, and probably dog poo bags.
Okay, next top tip. Don't opt out of your pension. Now, I know pensions involve investing, but if you're one of the millions of people who have an employer, the chances are that you will be automatically enrolled into a workplace pension, which means your money will come out of your salary and be invested even before you've received a payslip. So, in effect, it's a thing to do with your finances before you make any conscious decisions about investing. A workplace pension is a fund that's built on your behalf using money from your salary, plus extra money from your employer, plus free money from the government. So there are quite a few juicy perks. The fund will then be invested in a whole range of assets over many years, and you can't touch it until you're 55. Now, you may be thinking, well, yeah, okay, but I want the money now because I want to go into space with Jeff. Well, true. The perks are incredibly generous though, and for most people, it will end up being the most lucrative decision they ever made, because investments are growing in stock markets for decades. Just, you're gonna have to trust me on this one. They're also easy peasy lemon squeezy. They are totally hands off. Your company will deal with it and it will run the investments for you. And when you come to leave, you can take it with you and quite possibly be able to put it in your own private pension. And you can continue to do that with each job you take, just scooping each workplace pension into your one personal pension pot as you go along your career. We've got a video on those if you want to know more. They're called Self-Invested Personal Pensions, or SIPs. There's a link to it in the description for this video. If you're one of the 5 million self-employed people, there's no auto enrollment for you, but you should seriously consider setting up a private pension to invest in.
Okay, as promised, here is your bonus tip for those who are a little bit nervous about investing, perhaps. Now, there are ways to protect yourself and your income so that you don't need to worry about what's going on in the markets and how your investments are performing. And if you were chatting to a financial advisor, one thing that they would consider and likely talk to you about is insurance, which can be for all sorts of things, but two to mention here that are quite good are life insurance and income protection. Now, these would pay out money if something happened to you or you lost your job. So you can see where this extra protection comes from. They're not essential to investing, but it will depend very much on where you are in life, how much your income is depended on by you and others like your family. In other words, how many responsibilities you might have. Again, it also depends how risk averse you are, because this takes the pressure of your emergency funds and can create an environment where you're less concerned about the ups and downs of the stock market and having to use those funds at inopportune times. So it's very much dependent on you, but of course they come at a cost and will likely be less needed if you're younger.
So to summarise what you should do before taking the plunge into the market. First off, clear expensive credit card debt. You'd be an investing whiz kid if you could clear those rates in returns. Second, investment returns are uncertain. So take a look at other cheaper debt to see if it's worthwhile clearing those too. But don't worry about your mortgage. 3, build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of costs in case you get slapped with a large bill. And 4, stick with your workplace pension. It'll be the best financial decision you've ever made. Please like the video if you found this useful, and please check out our free investing magazine if you're maybe a little further along in your journey and looking for some investing ideas. The link is in the bio. That's it. Join us again next time. Goodbye.
Bye.